India is looking to amend its nuclear energy laws, and the obvious question is, why is this happening now? To understand that, we need to look at what exactly is being changed and what the government is trying to achieve through the SHANTI bill. SHANTI stands for Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India. Clever, right? This bill focuses entirely on India's civilian nuclear energy sector, and it represents the biggest reform in this sector since 1962. The SHANTI bill replaces two major laws. The first is the Atomic Energy Act of 1962. This law made nuclear energy a complete government monopoly. Only the central government and its public sector companies could operate nuclear power plants. In reality, this meant that NPCIL, the Nuclear Power Corporation of India, controlled almost the entire nuclear sector. Private companies had no role. Even state governments were excluded. The second law is the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. This law was meant to ensure compensation for victims if a nuclear accident ever occurred. It placed liability on the operator, and through a provision called the right of recourse, it also allowed suppliers of nuclear equipment to be sued. The SHANTI bill repeals both these laws and replaces them with a new framework. So why is the government doing this right now? The first reason is scale. Today, India has 24 nuclear reactors with a total capacity of around 8.8 gigawatts and another 6.6 gigawatts under construction. Nuclear energy contributes only about 3% of India's total electricity generation. But India's target is much bigger. By 2047, India wants to reach 100 gigawatts of nuclear power capacity. This level of expansion cannot be achieved by government companies alone. Public sector undertakings simply do not have the capital or speed required. That is why the government is opening the nuclear sector to private participation for the first time. This includes allowing private players to invest in nuclear power projects, enter joint ventures with public sector companies, and participate in small modular reactors. Small modular reactors are smaller nuclear units designed for specific industrial or regional needs. They are faster to deploy and are being promoted heavily by the government. The goal is to have 5 to 6 small modular reactors operational by 2033. Foreign involvement is expected mainly in the form of technology, fuel supply, and reactor design, while the fuel cycle and overall control remain with the government to meet non-proliferation commitments. The second major reason for this reform is climate change. Under the Paris Agreement, India has committed to generating 500 gigawatts of electricity from non-fossil fuel sources. Solar and wind energy are important, but they suffer from one major problem: intermittency. They are not available 24/7. An economy, however, needs base load power, stable electricity supply at all times. Today, this role is played by coal-based thermal power plants, which are highly polluting. Nuclear energy provides the same stability without carbon emissions, making it critical for India's clean energy transition. Now comes the most controversial part of the SHANTI bill: nuclear liability. Under the 2010 law, India took a stricter approach than global standards, largely because of the Bhopal gas tragedy experience. The idea was to ensure strong accountability and better compensation for victims. However, this approach was not aligned with international norms recommended by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. Globally, nuclear liability is usually clearly defined and capped, and suppliers are protected unless liability is contractually specified. Because India allowed suppliers to be sued, many foreign companies refused to enter the Indian nuclear market despite nuclear cooperation agreements. The Shanti Bill changes this. Under the new framework, total liability is capped at 3,000 rupees and 3,000 rupees crore, Liability rests only with the operator and suppliers are not automatically liable. A supplier can be held responsible only if there is a specific contract with the operator that allows liability in case of negligence or defects. If compensation exceeds 3,000 crore rupees, the government will pay, which effectively means taxpayer money. This has led to criticism. Critics argue that 3,000 crore rupees is insufficient in case of a serious nuclear accident and that shielding suppliers weakens accountability. There is also concern that victims may struggle to get compensation if suppliers are at fault, but contracts do not allow recourse. The government's argument is that without aligning India's liability laws with global standards, private and foreign investment will not come, and India's nuclear expansion plans will fail. Another important concern is regulatory independence. India's nuclear regulators, the Atomic Energy Commission and the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, function under the Department of Atomic Energy, which comes directly under the Prime Minister's office. This creates a potential conflict of interest because the same system that promotes nuclear energy also regulates its safety. While the Shanti Bill talks about improving safety oversight, experts point out that true regulatory independence remains unresolved. So overall, the Shanti Bill marks a major shift in India's nuclear policy. It opens the door for private participation, supports clean energy goals, and aims to rapidly scale up nuclear power. At the same time, it raises serious questions about liability, accountability, victim protection, and regulatory autonomy. Whether this reform ultimately benefits India will depend on how carefully it is implemented and regulated in practice.